Okay, so this is looking at working memory model AO3, so the discussion, the evaluation around it. What you'll be able to do is apply it in the lesson, evaluate it and some of the research and what the research says about it, and each particular component, whether it works, whether there is research for or against it. Okay, it's all AO3. Okay, the first one's clinical evidence, you can call this one. Support for the working memory model comes from Chalice and Warrington, 1970, okay, with the case study of KF. So they call him KF, that's to do with ethics, okay, and they don't use real names, okay, you've got to be confidential. Okay, but patient KF with brain damage. KF had poor short-term memory ability for verbal information, but could not process visual information. Okay, so the best way to look at this is to compare it to the other model you know, which is the multi-store model. And if you damaged your short-term memory in that, then the whole of your short-term memory would be damaged. What this case study says is that the short-term memory was damaged, but only for verbal information and not for visual information. Okay, so this suggests that only the phonological loop of the multi-store, the working memory model was damaged, so showing that it exists within the short-term memory. This supports the existence of separate visual and acoustic stores, and then if you want to evaluate this study as a case study, so it may not be that reliable because it doesn't allow for individual differences. Okay, because we're only looking at one person, we can't generalize it. It's not generalizable to wider population, and therefore could be said to lack ecological validity. Okay, so some other evidence for the existence of separate stores within the short-term memory come from what is called a dual task study or dual task performance. Baddeley, 1975, showed that two visual tasks at the same time was harder to do than visual and verbal tasks at the same time. So to give you what that means is picture the working memory model. It has visual spatial sketchpad and the phonological loop. And what we're saying here is if we give you two tasks that are both in the phonological loop, then it's hard. If we give you two tasks that are both in the visual spatial sketchpad, then it's hard. However, if we give you one for the visual spatial sketchpad and one for the loop, it's actually easier. So it shows that they both have limited capacity and you can do two tasks at the same time if they are different tasks. This increased difficulty is because both visual tasks compete for the same systems. Just explain that. The visual verbal has no competition. Must be a visual spatial sketchpad processing visual input. Okay, the next point is about regarding the central executive. Psychologists suggest that the central executive, the working memory model, does not really explain anything. Baddeley 2003 said the central executive is the most important but least understood component of the working memory model. Psychologists believe it may be made up of separate components. So what the main evaluation point here is that that idea of central executive is a nice idea, that it sits there and it controls everything. But nobody can tell you where it is. Nobody can tell you how it does any of it. So it's a nice idea, but it lacks real kind of validity through any kind of MRIs or CAT scans. They can't show the existence of it like they can with other things. So basically, it's saying that the clarity of the central executive is well, it needs more basically. Word length effect supports the phonological loop. So Baddeley 1975 demonstrated that people find it harder to remember a long list of words rather than a short list of words. Okay, so that provides evidence for this idea of phonological loop. There is a limited amount of space in the articulatory control system, and the word length effect disappears if given an articulatory suppression task. This is a repetitive task which gives the articulatory control system more to do. Hopefully that makes sense. About how the task and what it actually proves about the existence of the parts of the phonological loop. Okay, brain studies. Braver 1997 gave the participants tasks that involved the central executive while they were having a brain scan. Found greater activity in the prefrontal cortex as the task got harder. suggests that as demands increase on the central executive, it has to work harder to fulfill the function. This is basically using brain scans. So if you can picture an MRI or a brain, it's basically saying that as the task got harder, there was more happening in the frontal cortex. It would light up more prefrontal cortex, which shows that the existence of these things that are having to decide where demand goes to fulfill the function. Next lesson, forget it.